So welcome to the 2024 Annual General Meeting. I would like to thank everyone for joining tonight. We're just saying it's great to see so many of you, 154 registrations. I think that's the most we've ever had, which is awesome. And there's about 50 of you or so in the room at the moment, so that's awesome. Firstly, I'd like to open the meeting by acknowledging the MSC Meet, Work and Travel on the traditional lands of the Yamatang, Tanarung, Durudoa, Gunai and the Ngarigo people, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'll start with introducing the MSC committee. So we've got Craig Shepherd, President of Operations Program Director, and Owen Lansbury, which is Communications Director and Vice President, Coralie Reich, who's the Treasurer, got Rolf Schuenfeld, Merchandise, Membership and ATC Manager, Sam Robertson, Head of Fundraising, and myself, Melissa McHugh, as Secretary. I'll quickly run through some housekeeping and then we can get started. If everyone can just keep their Zoom on mute throughout the meeting, there'll be time for Q&As at the end, but please feel free to use the chat box throughout the meeting on Zoom here and with any questions that arise, and then I'll read out those questions on your behalf and then we'll be able to answer those at the end. All right, so I'm going to start the meeting with a motion to accept the 2023 minutes.
Motion to accept.
Right. Meeting minutes, sorry.
And second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I jumped ahead. Great. The minutes have been accepted.
That's the only formal business we need.
It is, and I almost got it wrong. So that's good. We'll just jump on to the next slide. Just quickly, we've got a snapshot of tonight's agenda. So you've just heard from me. And then we anticipate this meeting is going to run for about 45 minutes or so, and give or take, depending on how many questions we have at the end. And I'll just open the floor to Craig, who's going to present the operations report.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Mel. Thanks everyone for coming. Another good year, 2024 in the rearview mirror. Already looking to 2025, but let's talk about 2024. So first off, always a shout out to the field team. Our second year having a field team with MSC. I think as you can see from this slide, the field team is growing. We had an addition of several people in both New South Wales as well as in Victoria. So shout out in New South Wales to Claudine Talbot, Lou Sander that joined, and in Victoria, Dan Trevina, Matt Cooper, and Luke Frispin. So it's really nice to have this team together. We could do in-house mentoring session planning with Kyle and I, working with a number of the field team members. And part of the mentoring, we were bringing people into the fold of producing the reports this year, which has been really great. And in particular, a shout out to Owen Lansbury, who's in the room here, and Dylan Robinson. They both really stepped up this year. Owen helped me here in New South Wales, and Dylan helped Kyle a lot in Vic. Also, Mimi and Alex. If I saw Alex, not sure I see Mimi, but thanks to you both. They're continuing to grow in this area too, and what that entails is getting up at about 5 a.m. and meeting me online and looking at my mug and talking about weather and reports and stuff. So thanks for all that. The advantage of the field team, really, to reiterate, is just having a consistency, reliable stream of information coming in. But all of these people, it's not their first job, so sometimes we can still end up with gaps there. And I'll talk a little bit more to that of how we address that this season. But all in all, a great group of professionals. Some are guides, some are patrollers, some are just doing a variety of things, and they make time for MSC and get involved, so thank you. Another thing that happened this year, Owen, if you can switch slides, was this gentleman is in the room, Tyson. Thanks for coming out, and thanks for all your support. Tyson came on board with the Alpine Education Series and give weather talk in, I believe, all 3 areas, Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne. And then from this, what stemmed was a weekly Zoom meeting with Tyson and myself and Kyle for weather discussions, looking at the incoming systems, probabilities, freezing levels, precipitation amounts, etc. And really, it was a great opportunity for us and for MSC to have this that sort of continued professional development. And Tyson was up for spending that time with us throughout the winter. So thanks, Tyson. Appreciate your support. We did incorporate some different weather resources into our daily workflow out of our conversations with Tyson. So like I said, the MSC field team is great to have, but everyone's busy. And so sometimes there are still some gaps in the information we're looking to fill. So 2 ways we went about this was one with this Alpine Partner Program and the other with public observations. So the Alpine Partner Program is kind of almost like an information exchange of sorts. So in Canada, they have something called an information exchange or InfoX, where all operators put in their observations from what weather they're seeing, what snowpack observations they're seeing, what avalanche activity they're seeing, any anomalies they're seeing. And it's just a really great way to share information. Alpine Access Australia, Dave and Peter Herring, approached MSC and said, hey, it'd be great to try to have an InfoX of sorts here in Australia. And so we were keen with that. And what kind of came of it was this Alpine Partner Program. So these 6 companies that work in the mountains here came on board, and they supported us with sharing information when they were out doing their guiding or their instructing, whatever they do. So, and overall, these companies on the screen here contributed over 30 submissions this year. Thank you to all those folks. The other way is public observations. We had 31 public observations throughout the winter. And so this, again, doubled the amount of that the Alpine Guiding Partners put in to the platform. And also the MSC observation teams, we had around that 30. So, and the public, they'll send in photos, they'll send in information like this. As you can see, the majority of the observations were in July, but I think that is partly due to obviously the weather. But look, there's also a few standout people in our community that are recreationalists, and a shout out goes to Dave Tweedy, Capo, out of Threadbow, Ronan Kennedy out of Jindabyne here, and Lachlan Short down in Victoria. Those 3 put in lots of observations whenever they were out, and those 3 get out a lot. So thank you to all that. So if you can go to the next slide, Owen, in the end, again, the combination of the Alpine Partner Program and the public observations, as you can see in this slide here, almost doubles the amount of information that comes into the system this year. And as we've talked about year after year, the more information that goes into the system, the more accurate the reporting is for the public. And last but not least, a big shout out goes to Bill Barker and his team at Hotham. I'm not sure if Bill's in the room, but look, Bill's been a gracious supporter of MSC for many years. And there's pretty much a daily communication with him throughout the season. So thanks, Bill, because he's a big input into our Victoria reports of getting awesome information right from the ground daily, early in the morning. And speaking of Victoria, I thought I'd share some insights from both Victoria and New South Wales. So this is how it looked from a general perspective of the reporting in terms of not recommended travel, extra caution required, normal travel. We reported this year from roughly the end of June to the beginning of September. In Victoria, there was actually 148 centimeters of cumulative new snow that was recorded. And the other thing that happened that was interesting this year, and the reason there's so many not recommended times in the Alpine in particular, was that there were a whole slew of bomb severe weather warnings not recommending to travel. And MSC aligns our messaging with that messaging as well. And so I think that's part of what you'll see is why there's so many days that were not recommended in the Alpine. Next slide, please. But how do you get to those hazards and not recommended, extra caution, regular caution? Well, it's through a combination of the weather hazard, the surface hazard, and the avalanche hazard. As you can see, the surface hazard in the Alpine, a lot of days with widespread ice in Victoria, a lot of days with localized ice. The subalpine was a lot friendlier in the ice world, but in the subalpine in Victoria was also very shallow conditions for much of the season. Next slide. Very little avalanche hazard this year in Victoria. Only a couple of days of considerable, several days of moderate and mostly low. 3 downed avalanches were reported throughout the season in Victoria. So if someone saw an avalanche and told us about it, we record it, and we had 3 recorded from this year in Victoria. Now over to New South Wales, Lake Victoria, the same reporting period, the end of June to the beginning of September. So 72 days of reporting in all for both Victoria and New South Wales. A little bit more cumulative new snow in New South Wales. There was 174.2 centimeters of snow here. And as with Vic, we had 14 days of bomb severe weather warnings, a lot of them in that last part of August. And so that coincides with the high not recommended in the Alpine. Can you go next slide, please? Lots of ice, mostly localized this year. And what this iterates is that, ice remains top of mind as the most significant hazard in the Australian Alps. And so we're be mindful and certain to message that way and make sure that MSC is seen as forecasting the hazards holistically and not an avalanche-centric service at all. But speaking of avalanches in New South Wales, a little bit more avalanche hazard than Victoria. 8 downed avalanches were reported. They did coincide with that considerable time and coming out of the moderate. And there was an interesting event for anyone that was out kind of the end of, third week of July, 21st of July-ish. A lot of WUMPing was around, and we were seeing it. The New South Wales observers were seeing it. Commercial operators were calling in about it, and even the public. One of the IFMGA guides was in the area, sent in a public report because WUMPing is what it is a collapse within the snowpack. It's fairly atypical for this area, so it was interesting to hear and see for that period of time. Some other happenings out there in the field. This gentleman, Dwayne White from the University of Canberra, is doing some study up above Thredbo. And what he's looking at is how the snowpack ripens during the winter and spring to better predict melt rates for, I guess, river flows and such. So Dwayne reached out to the MSC to see if we'd like to become involved. And that's something that I guess is a watch this space sort of thing. And how MSC could help Dwayne and that project is they go up several times a year, and in these pictures you can see a core sample that they can drill down and get a core of snow, and then they kind of evaluate it with a lot of similar ways that we evaluate through a snow profile. So an opportunity for Dwayne and MSC is that when we are out digging, doing profiles, if we can share that information with him, he would appreciate that. So that's something that we'll work towards more in 2025 with Dwayne. Next slide. Other happenings about Scouts in Victoria reached out to MSC, and we gave a presentation to their trip leaders. It was prior to their winter functions with their groups. So it was just an online platform, short presentation about the hazards in the backcountry and with a Q&A period afterwards. There were several people that headed to New Zealand in the spring that did the ARM level 5, which is the Avalanche Risk Management level 5. Some of those candidates reached out to MSC and we were happy to take them out and do some training with them in preparation for their course. As far as I know, everyone passed, which is great. And one of them in return has reached out already to see if they can get on board helping MSC in 2025. With the Alpine Partners program, that third dot, MSC made changes to the reporting platform just for ease of access and information sharing. Basically, we just moved to a Google platform and Google Form. That seemed to work well for that. The Southern Hemisphere Alpine Conference That's on every 2 years. It's in Wanaka. So I went down to that in June as a networking event to look at industry presentations and best practices and see what changes are coming into industry. So helping MSC stay current with what's going on. And then also along with that is that relationship between Mountain Safety Collective here in Australia and the Mountain Safety Council of New Zealand. They reached out to Nathan Watson, who heads up the Mountain Safety Council of New Zealand, reached out to us and said, hey, like, we're nearest neighbors, we should do more together. And again, this is a bit of a watch this space because MSC Australia has been invited to join the International Outdoor Safety Forum, which we're looking to do for 2025. And that's it for me. So thanks very much for listening, and I'll look forward to your questions again. Thanks, Owen.
Thanks, Craig. I'm Owen. I've been overseeing our communications approach for the past couple of years, and just wanted to start off with talking about our in-person events. So we've been running the Alpine Education Series for the past few years in alliance with Arc'teryx and Alpine Access Australia. They've always had a good following. Last year, we tried to increase the number of people that could attend by finding bigger venues, and we're able to do that in Melbourne. And overall, we had 400 attendees across Melbourne, Canberra, and Sydney. We've still been running Canberra at Capital Brewing, which is a community supporter of ours, and we've still got a good relationship with the Rose of Australia Hotel in Sydney, which meets our needs. And I think importantly, a lot of our MSC ambassadors and field observers and people affiliated with MSC were also present at lots of other snow-related events pre-season and through the season. So there was the launch of the Maven movie that featured Chess Smee, Tough Tits, which is a women's snow focused group with a lot of backcountry focus as well. They've had a lot of interaction with MSC over the past year, had a lot of support from the Warren Miller Film Tour. They did a big shout out to us at all of their presentations, and Adventure Plus, who overarch Warren Miller, have been a big supporter of ours. And then, of course, the Victorian Backcountry Festival, obviously a little bit constrained this year, but still had people there talking about what MSC does. Getting to the website and people coming to the actual reports online. So despite the poor conditions that we had, we only saw a small dip in overall traffic for the year compared to last year. And overall, that turned into 22,000 visits to the site from 15,000 individual users and 43,000 page views, which is pretty good. And I think importantly, we are seeing people from our target demographic actually coming to the website. So 85,000 visits from Australia. I think importantly to point out, we do see quite a lot of US traffic, but I'm attributing that to people using virtual private networks to be able to watch YouTube videos wherever they want to. I think we had one user from Kyrgyzstan, so it's quite interesting to see where everyone comes from. And then I think the other important part of it is 64% of people are accessing the reports on their mobiles. So that really speaks to people are kind of out there in the field, about to head off from the trailhead and accessing their mobile. But people accessing from their desktop is still really important. And then how they're getting to the site, almost half of people are just coming straight to the reports. So that indicates that they've probably bookmarked the reports. A quarter are from search, and looking at the search terms they use, they align well with what we're providing. And then the rest is a mix of coming from social media links, referral links. So if we've done a report on, say, Mountain Watch, and that links through to the report, that's coming from there. And then when we send out emails to our user base and have links in there, that's where the rest of the traffic comes from. And this is just an indication of the website traffic graphics. I think the important thing to point out here with the bump that we see in May, that's around the Alpine Education Series and our membership drive. And then the bump in July was when we had snow, and then that quickly tapered off when conditions started to deteriorate. And so if you look into more detail, you'll always see that when we do have a snow event, we get a pretty significant noticeable spike in people coming to the website. Social media, as people may be aware, we've had a professional social media manager for the past couple of years, and her goals for this year were to focus more on quality over quantity. So not just bombarding people with content, trying to hone that into what's relevant, and focusing on content interactions as opposed to just raw clicks. And what we found people are very responsive to a more behind the scenes footage of what we actually do. And funnily enough, the video that Craig posted of analysing some facet crystals on his shovel had by far the most views and engagement. I think about 370,000 people watched that video. So pretty amusing that Craig is now a viral social media star. And then importantly, our ambassador program has been great to kind of just drive engagement, to leverage the content that they're shooting anyway, and to help us connect with more followers in different parts of our community. And I think in terms of the overall results that we've had with social media, we've had significant growth, if not massive growth, in terms of how many people we're reaching and how much they're engaging with the content. That's translated into a steady growth in our followers. So we picked up about another 1,000 followers for both Facebook and Instagram this year. And it's fair to say that of any social media presence that's focused on backcountry related things in Australia, we've definitely got the largest number of followers. So we've achieved that goal. If you look at the demographics, that pairs quite cleanly with our membership data as well. So about 3/4 male, 1/4 female, and our age demographic is quite firmly in that kind of 25 to 54. People that are old enough to be able to afford backcountry equipment and still fit enough to use it. And what we've been finding in terms of content is that shorter, bitier content on things like safety and current conditions and educational information are definitely our best performing pieces of content. So there's some data there indicating our reach on the main platforms that we're going out through, and then the demographic data there as well. And then I think it's also worth pointing out that we have had some partnerships with other media organisations over the past couple of years, and Mountain Watch have been a very strong supporter of us. They encourage us to provide a weekly summary every Friday that they then publish out to their audience, and that just helps us kind of get our content out there a bit more broadly. So in terms of what we'll be focusing on in 2025, we are actually just in the process of finalising a new social media manager. Savannah, who'd been working with us for the past couple of years, is moving into some other professional activities. So I'm quite happy that Dylan Robinson, who we've had a long relationship as both an ambassador and a field observer, he's stepping up to be our social media manager. And again, that's a contract paid role just to ensure that we've got the consistency there. And then, like I've talked about, we're going to be focusing on high quality content that does drive that growth and reach and interactions, and leveraging our ambassador network to drive content and engagement too. And then we'll be looking at other areas where we can broaden our media and sponsorship partnerships. And we've had good success in terms of working with sponsors and partners to co-create content and then share that across multiple networks. So we did something with Wild Earth last year. I think they have a couple of 100,000 social media followers, and that helped us get in front of their audience as well. And then something that's in discussion at the moment is looking at how we can actually expand our in-person events program. So I think the format for the Alpine Education Series has been great over the past couple of years, but if you've attended more than one, you've probably seen similar content a couple of times. So we're looking at how we can possibly separate that Alpine Education series into targeting new users who are seeing that content for the first time, and then more experienced audiences who want to see new content and dive into subjects in more detail. And I think that's it for me. I'll hand over to Sam. Still there, Sam?
Yeah, I'm still here. Thanks, Owen. That's great. And I will just excuse in advance. I've got a 2.5-year-old training to become a member of the field team in the background, so you might hear some banging and crashing as she does some profiles. So kicking off all things membership. Next slide there, Owen. Thank you. So obviously a key pillar of our funding comes from our individual memberships. It's $50 a year to support our services. We've retained that price point for a couple of years, and it was interesting to see with market conditions coming into this year how that was going to go. 2024 saw a dip in membership for us, so we entered from the end of last season with 901 paid members. We're at 808 today. There were two key drivers of that. Most of you may remember we've been going through a transition from annual payments manually every year to a recurring annual payment in our system. So I've got some stats later on, but we had a number of outdated cards and members who had lapsed that we followed up with, but also the cost of living impact. There was definitely some members out there who this year was not an option to support, but I do think we will see some of them come back in the future. Our membership has plateaued at around what we believe to be 10% of the Australian backcountry audience. We do want to grow this, but we need to get into that next layer of users. We've obviously got a great support from the core user group, but we're definitely looking into 2025 to go another layer further. I'll talk to that later on. Moving on to the next slide. Membership drive. So for the past few years now, we've had a structured membership drive pre-season to really kick off the winter. We've had great ongoing support from our sponsors. I really wanted to make a call out to those brands that have continued to support us despite a very challenging year. Craig and I have just come from the SIA trade show last week in Canberra. And the general theme has been tough. There's a lot of operators and retailers out there who've been challenged. So for those who've continued to support us, we really appreciate that and look forward to welcoming a number back as the market turns in future. We did go to a new format this year. So we continued with our weekly prize pool throughout the drive for all paid members, but brought in a new component of conducting a raffle. So the ability to buy additional tickets towards premium prizes, which generated an additional $2,500 worth of revenue for us this year, which is equivalent to adding 50 additional members. So it definitely offset some of that drop that we saw in overall membership and allowed people to be really targeted about some of the things they wanted to win, which was great. We did have 54 new members sign up during the membership drive period. And as I mentioned before, as part of our transition to recurring annual payments, 349 of our members had expired cards. Through follow-up, 170 of those transitioned and renewed with updated card details. And there were 179 that ultimately were unreachable or did not renew. So we'll look to pick some of that back up. The key premium prizes this year, thanks go out to Arc'teryx as our key partner, again offering a great prize there. Atomic, Burton, Milo, Roxa and G3 were the other supporters with premium prizes. And then also from the weekly prizes standpoint, we had Threadbow, Survive First Aid, Avalanche Training Australia, Wild Magazine, Adventure Plus and Julbo. So thank you to all of those for provided multiple prizes to cover us throughout those weeks. It's great value back to our members and we really appreciate that support. Some insights into who our members are. So currently Vic makes up 50% of our membership. with New South Wales and ACT combining for 41%. With a spread, we do have a number of members, traditionally Australian, but temporarily based overseas. We really thank those for staying engaged, although they might not be benefiting from our reporting during the season. And our assumed gender splits based on the information we have is male is about 76%, similar to what Owen had showed from our social media. And that there has transitioned slightly up from a female perspective from previously. Moving on, I want to thank our sponsors. Arc'teryx signed on back in 2022 in an initial 3-year exclusive partnership as our signature sponsor. We've worked closely with Arc'teryx on the Alpine Education Series and a number of other initiatives. Our content, what we're doing in this professional space really aligns well with Arc'teryx's goals of supporting professionals in the mountains. And we're having some ongoing conversations about what the future looks like, and pretty excited to talk to that in the not too distant future. Also supporting sponsors from G3, Threadbow, White Room, and Last Frontier. These are providing paid sponsorship that continues our ability and helps towards maintaining our operations for the season. So thank you again to each of those. And we also have event supporters: Atomic Burton, Marco Salomon, Alpine Access Australia, Mountain Flow EcoWax, POC, Milo, Capital Brewing, Black Crows, Wild, Warren Miller, Mountain Watch, Survive First Aid, Mammoth, and Julbo. It was really nice to, with Craig's support, go and thank a number of those brands at the SIA event last week. And we really look forward to going deeper with some of them in the coming years ahead. We have historically had government grants from Parks Victoria and New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service. That really helped us professionalise our reporting service, but it has expired. So we're currently looking, you'll see shortly, government funding is a key strategic objective for us, and we'll be looking to identify some more funding opportunities there. So for 2025 and beyond, we are just back one there, please, Owen. There we go. Ooh. Keeps jumping ahead. That's all right.
This was the next slide, which we'd added.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Sorry. So for 1% for the planet, some of you may have seen we released during the winter that MSC has joined 1% for the planet. What that is, it was founded back in 2002 by Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, and Craig Matthews, who is the founder of Blue Ribbon Flies. Their goal was to reject the business as usual side of things in corporate world and give back to environmental partners who are making a difference around the globe. What that's meant is MSC is qualified as a 1% for the planet environmental partner. That's due to our commitment to improving safe access to the backcountry for the community through our free daily backcountry reports and our commitment to protecting the environment in Australia's alpine regions. So far, since 2002 and its inception, hundreds of millions of dollars have been given to environmental partners, and we as MSC are now able to benefit from these contributions if those partners select us. So looking forward to what that means for us into the future. And for 2025 and beyond, really a fundamental there for us is ensuring that our baseline funding across government membership and sponsorship is ensuring at the start of every winter we are able to undertake all of our operations for the year, and anything above and beyond that to do some of the nice to have growth projects that we've got prepared. Our 3 key pillars of funding have evolved over time. As I mentioned, our government funding has lapsed in the form of grants, but now we're really looking to position ourselves as a key medium for community conversation in the backcountry, and looking to, there's a number of agencies who have identified to us that they're valuing our service. Some are sharing our content, some rely on it. So bringing that together and shoring up some longer term funding is our number one goal in this space. Membership, we want to continue to grow that sustainably. We had a spike a few years ago that was tied to some large Arc'teryx discounts and so forth that we did see a drop off after that period. So we want to make sure that our membership base is one that's going to be here for the long term and grow that sustainably. But as I mentioned, we've really plateaued just under 1,000 members. That next layer of participants, one of the big reasons we went to the SIA trade show last week and met with all the key brands and retailers there, was to understand how do we work with them to better reach consumers during conversations when they're buying equipment for the backcountry. That's a key touch point in most people's journeys. And through shop visits throughout this winter, a number of our team members identified that 75–80% of the shop staff that we spoke to still don't know who MSC are. So it's really important for us to get that awareness and ensure that when a member of the public is looking to go and have a backcountry experience and talking to those people at the coalface, whether it be buying equipment or asking for advice, that they funnel them through to us. So we're looking towards a number of initiatives for 2025, joining staff training nights at the start of winter to make sure that retail staff are very clear on who we are and how to point participants our way, and also what kind of retail activations we can do both with brands and retailers to make it easy for people to either scan through to our daily reports, figure out where to go and get training and learn new skills from our alpine guiding partners, etc. And then finally, sponsorship. Sponsorship, I think it's very important. The brands that we partner with bring credibility and support and funding to us. But this is a small industry. There is not a huge amount of money going around within the brands, and we want to make sure that the value goes both ways. So we are looking to simplify our sponsorships and go deeper with a few key partners. But government and membership will look to be our key baseline funding. From an operational perspective, we're going to be looking to spread the workload of events, the membership drive, and partnership management to ensure that we're giving a really good experience to our members and to people at those events, and reduce sort of reliance and risk on key team members. Remembering this is volunteer roles mostly in this space, and the great thing is these events, the membership drive, they're getting quite big. So we'll definitely be taking up a few of those offers for support that various members have put out to join subcommittees and so forth into 2025. So that's it from my side of things. I'll be passing over to Coralie for the Treasurer's report.
Hello. Next slide. Yeah, so on the right, we have the balance sheet. So our financial period ends at 31st of May each year. So I've presented for the last 3 years. So last year we recorded a loss. We still have a bit of a buffer, so that's helped us to get through. On the left, I've got our income statement, and I've also included this year, so although it still has a few more months to run. So the main thing with 2024, jumped. Yeah, so the main thing with 2024 is things like we did get set up the ATC and Threadbow, so there's a bit of a cost with that. We also employed a social media manager, and we also attended the SIA booth, so that added to a bit more with our advertising cost as well. Forecasting costs were low due to a poor snow season. For next year, we are hoping that we should make a profit because we're waiting to get all our sponsorships will come through early next year. And so just want to confirm the membership fee will remain at $50 for 2025. And as they'll set to automatically renew, and people can contact MSC if they wish to cancel.
Hello. ATCs and remote cameras. Next slide, please. Okay, we've got, oh geez, I've got that the other way around. We've got 2 ATCs, one at Mount Hotham, one at Thredbo. And well, we had very average snow conditions this year. That shows in the amount of exercise that have been carried out. Next slide, please. So on the left, we've got the Thredbo statistics, which registered 103 exercises and 15 in expert mode. And on the right, we've got Mount Hotham, which registered 147 and, gosh, I can't even see that, 17 in expert mode. Now, I believe there was a ATC technician error in not resetting the Hotham ATC at the end of last season, which would make Thredbo the one with the most exercises and puts Hotham at 43 exercises for the winter. When it comes to Mount Hotham, we're considering relocating the ATC to somewhere near the new Mount Loch visitor area, as most tourists will leave from there. So stay tuned to updates on where the new ATC is going to be. Yeah, that's it for Mount Hotham. We've had a few remote cameras in place in Victoria because the areas for observations are a little bit more how would you call, labor intensive to get to, as in Mount Bogong and Mount Feathertop. And here's some images of some of the setups we've had. We still have, well, a few difficulties here and there, but it's all ticking along fine. Otherwise, thanks. What have we got? Merchandise, right? We've got new merchandise. Here's a few pictures. You'll find them all on the website. And remember, all members get a 35% discount. Now, because these items are all different sizes, we've changed the postage to choose on how many items you've chosen out of the array. The Truckers Froth Cap is back in stock as well. I haven't got a photo of that, just didn't fit. So please help yourself to anything there. We've got the t-shirts and the hoodies in male and female fit. The activity cap is like a 5-panel cap that fits really well under helmets. The Born to Froth is for 6 to 12-month-olds. If you have any regrowth in your family, go for it. We also have a few of Stephen Whiteside's books called Snow, Fire and Gold, about Bill Spargo and Evelyn Piper, who were pioneers in the skiing and development of Mount Hotham. If anybody's in need of any presents, you'll find them in the shop front as well. Yeah, that's it.
I was just going to mention there, we've also got plenty of maps, guides, and buffs in stock. And as we moved to last year, if you'd like a refreshed member kit, they're available for free. Postage cost is a little bit extra, but you will get a pack of stickers and things like that. Patches you can put on your gear, and you can get one free pack a year, I think, Rolf. Yep. Back to you, Craig.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah, more snow. Never enough snow, right, in a year. But I think a lot of these goals have been talked about throughout this presentation already. But like Sam was talking about, growing the membership beyond its current plateau. And within the field team, we'll continue the membership. People on the field team are going to various reaches of the planet for the Northern Hemisphere, whether it's Japan or North America. So looking forward to when those people come back to continue to help MSC grow, but also help them reach their goals in other hemispheres. I think that's just a lot of synergy when that happens, people going back and forth. Incorporating surface hazard scale into the report. So Kyle Boys and I this year have been working on putting a scale together for surface hazard. So similar to avalanche hazard in terms of location and magnitude and that sort of thing, actually trying to quantify a little bit more the surface hazard. So we put together a scale. We've sent it to some of our connections in Canada for feedback. We've sent it to New Zealand for some feedback, and that's a kind of watch this space because we'd like to incorporate more of a structured surface hazard reporting into the reports for next year. Sam already talked about the increased community outreach, as did Owen, I guess, sorry, through our education programs, and again, maybe separating it a little bit so people that are new can come and see something new, and then people that have been with us for a while are getting more value or continued value out of something that is a bit either more advanced or different tangent. And I put that out to the community. I asked the community, what sort of things would you like to see at education outreach, community outreach? And then to reiterate Sam's government funding and going back to SCS and police search and rescue and talking to them for future years. Thanks. And Mel, I think it's
yes. Okay. So committee for 2025. So just before we introduce ourselves and have a little chat, I suppose that's what we're doing. Everyone knows who we are. I just wanted to just reiterate what Sam mentioned earlier, that we'll be opening up volunteer subcommittees to assist with the smooth running of MSC. So just stay tuned for more detail on that. Yeah, should we just have a little, say a bit of a hello, who we are?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing on this slide is that 2025 will be my last year in the role of the president for the Mountain Safety Collective. I'll officially time out and have to step down, but hope to stick around as the program director. But yeah, it's been a slice, it's been a journey, and I've got one more year in me.
Yeah, just to reiterate, that's because of our bylaws. So
yes,
you can only have 3 consecutive terms and then have to have at least 1 year off.
Although in Canada, Justin Trudeau can stay in longer, I would say we should revisit our bylaws. Anyway.
Oh, it's me next. There we go. Hang on. Too many buttons to click. Yeah, so I'll still be overseeing communications into the coming year. And then in the role of vice president, I do a lot of coordination between the other groups within the committee. And I think as we've talked about, we've had a call out for volunteers. You can go on to the website and put your name onto that volunteer list, and we'll be looking at how we can bring more people into working alongside the committee, and that might be in the form of subcommittees or just assisting on various initiatives that we have, and that really helps bring new people in to understand what the committee does, and then provide them with an avenue to join the committee as well. So my current seat rolls through to the end of next year as well, and I think I've got the option to stand one more term beyond that. Coralie?
Yeah, so this is just my second year, so I've got a few more years. Yeah, so I'm happy to keep continuing on as treasurer. I think I know a bit more what I'm actually doing after 2 years of it.
And I'll be here for the long run. No, 2026. So I've been here for a year. So yeah, still plenty more to do in my term here.
Yes. Right, I'm off next year, so I hope to find somebody to store the 21 boxes of merchandise. That's it.
And amongst training our future field team members who are growing out of our new baby onesies, I'll be continuing on to 2026 and appreciating those who've signed up for some volunteer spots to help out with the membership drive and events.
And then, like we've talked about, Sam and Craig, Rolf and Craig's seats will expire next year, and then we'll definitely be having an election for new members off the back of that. And that brings us to
general business Q&A. So this might be short and sweet because I haven't had too many questions come through on the chat, but I do have a few from the initial registration. So while I'm getting through those, if anyone's got anything to put into the chat, now would be the right time to do that. So one of the first questions from the registrations, Michael Chant, I've got, will MSC be running training/education sessions? And I'm just going to put that out to the committee there. Whoever wants to jump in and answer that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure, I can answer that. So the question was, are we running training for the community? And the answer is MSC does not run training per se, but we have a great group of Alpine partners that does. So we would recommend going to them to look for specific training. But we will be offering Alpine education series and talks and that sort of thing. So, but in terms of on snow training, if you are looking to get better at skinning or backcountry travel or camping or first aid, there's a number of organizations that support us and we support, so they would be your go-tos for that sort of thing.
Nice one. Second one from Mikey Goodfellow. Are we able to utilize the unused cabins such as Diamantina Hut to create backcountry hubs? That'd be cool. Who would like to take that one?
Sounds like a Rolf question.
It does, doesn't it? Rolfie?
Just need to unmute.
I'm unmuting myself. Oh, that's a very tricky one. Look, I mean, Diamantina is a public space, and I guess what you're after is if we can place some lockers in there. I don't know. That'll be up to negotiations with ARV. Previously, we've also looked at the Murray Valley Ski Club Lodge, which is just across the street from Diamantina. And due to the fact that a lot of asbestos in that building it's another tricky subject, and again, it would have to be negotiations with ARV to see what goes there. Yeah, it's all very tricky. I mean, a while ago they said, "Oh, we hand it to you. You can have the hut, but we would have to do all the renovations ourselves and the removal of asbestos." It's not super expensive, but it is expensive, and I just can't see us having a spare $10,000 in our budget to do that. On top of that, you just never know. They might say, all right, you can have the hut for $1, but then you have to pay annual fees. It's all tricky. We might have to form a subcommittee on that subject. And any volunteers, please register.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out in that context, we still have to pay fees to the ARV for the ATC, don't we, Rob?
Yes, we have to pay a business fee every year. Yeah, so it'll be the same thing with anything like that. And because of the development of this Hotham to Falls hike, there was talk that some of the summer operators would be using the huts. Yeah, it's all very tricky. Very tricky. Watch this space.
Oh, snap. Okay. Tom Wainwright. So you've said there seemed like there was a lot of serious backcountry accidents or incidents this season. Have MSC done a post-season review, and what are our learnings from this?
You want to start?
Thanks for your question. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It is a good question. I agree that learnings come from accents, and absolutely spot on. And whereas MSC's role in this in Australia is we can only learn from them when information is shared to us, and so we're not any sort of not a governing body per se, is that sort of thing. So it actually ties into this other question. They said, Craig, what did you learn from your time in NZ? Any takeaways from while I was over there? And one of my big takeaways there was this idea of vulnerability and transparency and sharing. And in particular, there was a mental health panel, a group of 4 or 5 professionals up there talking about either near misses or accidents that they've dealt with over the year. And exactly what this question talks about is that there's really good learning to be had out of that. So I think if anything, MSC would hope to try to propagate that in culture here in Australia, and encourage people to share with everybody their accents and what's happened, so that we can all learn. So if you know of any specific things, let us know. I'm always happy to talk to people, but communication is a two-way street. And just, I think that answers that question. And for Alex on the chat that asked about New Zealand, the other takeaway was Ken Wiley, who wrote the book Buried, from an accident in 2003 in Canada. He was one of the presenters there, so he does a really good job presenting. And then if you're interested as well, there's a book called The Darkest White by Eric Blem that talks about the same incident with a different perspective. So it was interesting hearing that. And the last thing I'll say about that Southern Alpine conference that Alex asked about in the chat is that interestingly, a lot of people in New Zealand had heard about us on this side of the ditch and what we were doing, and thought it was a really kind of good way that we're doing it, that we're not avalanche centric, and also applauding this cultural shift in Australia, again, in terms of talking about things and getting information out there and all that. So hats off to the community here. Thank you all for support.
And I'll just circle back to the first question about the rate of incidents. So our understanding of most of the incidents in the past season is that they were ice related. And as Craig talked about, we're looking at increasing the visibility and detail of ice rating hazards in the reports. And also, like Craig said, where the first point of call for people to find out what the conditions are. And so my role as communications director is to try and ensure that we're getting the message out to as many people as possible to have that awareness before they actually head out. But we're definitely not involved in any search and rescue operations, but can partner with those organizations to be their communications arm in terms of providing that reporting information that people can access.
Right.
Next.
So I believe this is one last question from Viv Smith. So Viv's new to MSC this year. Welcome, Viv. She's asked, are there any community meetups during the season or trips that we can all do together?
And how can we get to know each other and meet like-minded folk? So I can talk to that. So obviously we have our Alpine Education Series. That's a great way to kick off the pre-season, get in a room with a whole bunch of other people that like doing things that you like doing, learn a whole bunch of things. So definitely encourage people to attend those events. And in terms of trips we can do together, again, we would be referring people out to the Alpine Guiding Partners Network. And a lot of those have, say, women's specific courses or skills specific courses. So if you're interested in learning about ski mountaineering, there's courses for that type of thing, and you're going to be connecting with people that like doing that as well. And from my own personal experience, actually doing in-person courses or backcountry trips that are organised by guiding companies, they're often the best way to actually connect with people and form good relationships with them. And I think the other point I'd like to make is that we don't try and do everything in terms of connecting people in the community. There's already great resources like the Australian Backcountry Group on Facebook, and we would not try and replicate that just for MSC, and we'll often refer people back to that group if they're looking to find online forums that they can connect with. There was one other question there as well, Mel. So there was a question about, is there a Hotham side country map? So my understanding is that we have a Hotham region backcountry map, but we don't have anything that specifically talks about runs that you can access off the side of lifts. And again, we're very conscious of spreading onto resort turf in terms of telling people where secret runs are that ski patrol may or may not like people accessing, and it would be very unlikely for us to go down that path.
Can I just expand, Owen, on your previous one as well? We have had feedback stemming from the Alpine Education series, you know, remembering that we've sold out all of those events a couple of years running now. They're a pre-season event, and they're typically geared towards entry-level participants. We have had some requests for more intermediate or advanced focus events, and potentially throughout the winter. That's something we will be visiting in the off season with our partners. And so if there's a change to that and more coming into that space, definitely watch our updates early into 2025 as we shape up for next winter.
And I'll just finish by saying we're very supportive of other organisations running backcountry related and snow related events, and we're very close friends with a lot of people involved with Protect Our Winters. So if you see their events, by all means support them as well.
Okay. I'll just have a quick look, just double check I haven't missed anyone. Nope. Okay, so that wraps up our AGM for 2024. Thanks everyone for your continued support and for coming along tonight. As we said before, I think there was 154 registrations, so that's amazing. If no one else has anything else to add, I will say that we'll now officially bring this AGM to a close.
Great. And I'll just add to that, if you do need to reach out to us, just connect to us through the website contact form, and any ideas or feedback, we're always open to it.
And thanks, everyone.
Thanks
everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.